everyone. So welcome to another episode of Marketing Demystified, season 2. I have a very special guest with me. I'll take a while in introducing her. So let me just quickly introduce myself. I'm Harpreet. I host Marketing Demystified, and we successfully covered season 1, in which we spoke about different nuances of marketing. In this season, we are focusing on sectoral marketing, which is marketing, how it varies in different sectors. Today, we are going to cover a sector which is primarily into self-care solutions, and it's basically OTC. And for this, I have with me Pooja, who heads marketing for Hansaplast. So she is marketing director for the healthcare business, which is Hansaplast. And she has around 12 years plus experience across sales and marketing roles. She has worked with various organizations of high repute, Perfetti, General Mills, and Tata Consumers. So welcome on board, Pooja.
Thank you, Harpreet. Thank you for having me on season 2 of Marketing Demystified.
Sure, thanks a lot. And I look forward to a very engaging conversation.
Absolutely.
Great. So should we start the discussion then?
Sure, let's roll.
Great. So what drove you to marketing?
Interestingly, I am not sure I have a great answer for what drove me to marketing, but what I can say is what has ensured I stick with marketing. What I really like is that at the core of everything you do in marketing is really your target consumer and those insights that you are able to get with those consumers and how that differs from category to category. So what I've really enjoyed in my entire journey so far is whenever I've looked at a category, how I'm able to go really deep into the consumer, what are those insights, and really weave those insights into the entire mix of all that we do. And to be able to do that to different categories is something I've really enjoyed. So I think that's what's kept me going so far in marketing.
Great. So it's all about consumers and consumer insights.
Absolutely. And how do you actually ensure every aspect of your mix is integrated with that insight? Because that's a bit of a challenge. I think we're able to get to insights, but how do we really bring it alive at every aspect is something which is getting more and more complex as we move ahead in marketing.
Right. So before I move forward, I think for the audience, although I did introduce sector a little bit, it'll be great if you can define your sector, because then it'll be easier for the audience to connect to the questions which I'm going to ask to you after this.
Fair enough. So broadly, as you said, it is self-care. But if I sort of make it broader, let's talk about healthcare. We also, I think most of us know FMCG, most of us know pharmaceutical. So I think health and wellness is something that's emerging right now. And I think post-COVID, it's something that's really accelerated. Just to put it in a simple line, the categories that we are discussing today largely are something that helps improve the quality of life. It could be something that you consume, it could be something that you apply, something that is preventive, something that is rehabilitative. So it's a very broad spectrum. What today we are discussing is about categories that are more self-usage, something that do not need prescription drugs. For example, my category, which is all about wound and injury care, and the brand that we are talking about today is Hansaplast, is about having wound plasters for your injuries. So these are products that you need not go to a doctor and prescribe, but you can really go to a chemist, buy it over the counter. So that's the space we are talking about. But healthcare largely in terms of categories and what broadly I'll be talking about are today more that is OTC, something you do not need prescription, something that improves your quality of life. You can either consume or you can apply. So that's the large space that we're talking about today, because rules and regulations also differ from this space to pharmaceutical space to medical devices space. So this is the first space that we'll be largely discussing today. I hope that gives more clarity to the category that we're discussing.
Sure. So if I were to summarize it, it's health, wellness, self-care, and OTC.
Yes, yes.
Perfect. So what is the structure of marketing team? If you are comfortable, you can share the structure in your current marketing team, or it could be symbolic of the marketing team in this particular sector.
Sure. So I'll talk more what is representative. What you have is, one is obviously the brand marketing team, the team that actually works on the strategy and the execution of your annual business plan in terms of what are the initiatives you want to roll out and how you want to execute them. So that's the one team, that's the core. Then you also have, which is very typical to your FMCG structures, are the services or the marketing services. Largely, I would call out, you will have the consumer insights. You will have media with a slightly more focus on digital as we move ahead. And also very, very important here is the shopper and customer marketing team that really ensures that all your point of sale solutions are executed really well. Now, depending on the organization and the focus of the organization, increasingly, you will start seeing an innovation vertical, something that's really working on the long-term assortment pipeline. What is it that you want to develop in terms of your assortment going ahead, depending on the scale of the organization and the focus of the organization. So largely, these would be the three broad verticals within marketing in the OTC space, very similar to FMCG, if I may say so.
So one is the brand marketing team who works on
Yes.
strategy.
Yes.
The other is the customer shopper, which is working on the POS. POS
Yes.
is POS material.
Yes.
It will be sales enablement infrastructure, so catalogs and leaflets and
Yes.
branding. And
Yes.
the third is the NPD or the new
Yes.
product development team.
Absolutely.
And obviously, in between the branding, I think it will be a part of the branding team only, the digital marketing team.
Yes, so I'm broadly summarizing it as services because there could be consumer insights, there could be media with specifics on digital, website, and your POS. So I'm just clubbing all of them together. But as you rightly said, yes, this is how it is structured.
And of course, there would be the digital, there would be a wing for e-commerce also in case you are doing e-commerce.
Absolutely. So typically e-commerce as a function rests with the sales team, but your e-commerce marketing team will sit within the digital team, if I may say so.
Right. So what are some of the KPIs for the marketing team? And it could be your KPIs also. Again, this could be representative.
Sure. So I'll split it into, say, three parts. So one are obviously the shared KPIs, which are your organization and the brand deliverables in terms of your total overall net sales, the gross margin. So these are all the shared KPIs, and obviously the marketing budget utilization, because that sort of flows into the P&L. Then what comes are your marketing specific KPIs. So your top of mind recall, all your brand awareness metrics, your spontaneous recall metrics, your net promoter score. So all the brand funnel metrics are what is sitting in the marketing KPIs. Then would be a lot of projects. So for example, if there are specific agendas, for example, if you are driving e-commerce, what's the growth in e-commerce you want to drive? For example, that's a specific KPI. If you're looking at your innovations, what are the number of innovations you want to launch at a certain next 1 year, 2 year horizon? So very specific goal-oriented KPIs in terms of projects or focus initiatives. So that would be the third bucket. So that's how I would define in terms of the KPIs over here.
Okay. So since NPD also sits with marketing,
yes,
I mean, this is I think across industries.
Yeah.
So since NPD also sits with marketing, so how many products you have launched or
Yes, and how much you have moved it across your stage and gate model? Have you taken it to a gate 2? Have you taken it to a gate 3? So that kind of things.
Right, right. And what is a good marketing budget in your industry? So would you say 1 to 5%, 5 to 10%, or more?
So it's a very subjective question, but let me try and put a little method to my answer. So I think there would be three factors. So one would, let's look at the category. The category that you're operating in, is it a growing category? Do you have headroom to grow? So what's the category you are in? So that defines what's your playground, for example. Second is, who are the competitors in the category? Is it very intense? Are there brands that are spending very heavily on media? So what's the threshold you need to be operating at to be able to gain share from them? So that's the competitive intensity. Third is, as a brand, where you are in the category. What's your maturity? Are you just a new entrant? Are you an established player? Do you have an innovation you want to drive? So third is your own agenda. Fourth is honestly not what as a brand you can do, but comes down to your organization as what are your financial goals. So finally, what's the EBIT you want to give? So that also defines a certain
much you want to
number of
spend.
marketing budget you can spend. So honestly, it's not a simple answer. The answer would be a good wish list in terms of what number, but I think these are the 4 ways we can structure how you want to sort of decide on the marketing budget. But if I would say, if you have potential to grow, there is headroom, you can fight competition and you can drive considerable net sales, it is good to invest more than 10%, 10 to 20%, so that you are able to drive that growth. But once you've done that and you are now trying to reap the benefits of the work you've done, I think sub 10%, 5 to 10% would be a good number. But I think a good way to figure out is to look at these 4 aspects, yes, and then decide. Because even if you want to invest, but you have an EBIT target, then you can't over invest, right? So then all that things you want to do is not something that you can decide.
Well,
So
I
that's
think
probably
that's a
how
very
I'll say.
interesting take, Pooja. So those were the factors which are going to define. But if I
Yes.
were to take an answer for this, so you are saying that 10% or more could be that in case you want to grow, or you feel that there is a lot
Yes.
of competition, but you have some space to grow.
Yes.
So more than 10% is fine. Other
Yes.
than that, if you are settled, if you are a big player but settled, so 5 to 10% seems okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So what are some of the activities done by you in your current role?
Okay. Some of the activities. So I think 3 things. One is really focusing on what we have to drive this year. So there's a very clear plan that is laid out in terms of what are our priorities. How do you want to drive those priorities? So the priorities will then sort of break down into initiatives. With whom are we going to drive those initiatives? So there's a very clear task that we have defined for every year. So really working on this is something that's important. Second would be really driving the roadmap in terms of planning. 2 years from now, 3 years from now, where is it that you want to take the brand? In terms of taking the brand, how do you set that vision? To be able to set that vision, what's the information you have, or what's the information you want to try and get? So what are the studies you want to sort of look at and be able to bring it all together so we can then define the next leg of growth for the brand? I think that's a second piece, important piece in terms of the strategy. First, we said is the execution. Second, we discuss is really laying down the strategy to drive the future growth. And third, very important is really how do we ensure the people, that's the team and me, we are ready to be able to drive that growth. So really upskilling, working on what are the needs we need to sort of learn. So I think digital is a forever evolving landscape. So how do you keep yourself updated on these aspects? How are you able to figure out to write better creative briefs? How you are able to appreciate better creative briefs? How are you able to judge the ideas that you get from agencies? So really figuring out and working on upskilling is a third important part, because that's important to be able to drive A and B. So that's sort of what I do and what I sort of bring together.
So how does your typical day look like?
Oh yeah, typical day. So I think there are a lot of meetings, and I'm sure for you also there are a lot of meetings, but typically how I would say I start the week is Mondays or Tuesdays. I think Mondays I keep it for the team to be able to put together all the task lists and all the work streams. Tuesday, typically we review all of that and we prioritize, because there are so many initiatives, some things that are planned, something that come up ad hoc. So really prioritizing the work and focusing on what is it that we need to must do's for the week. What are the okays to sort of go over to the next week? Because I think a regular prioritization really helps align the work we do. The second part is really now having meetings with cross-functional team members, with agency stakeholders, to really drive those projects and initiatives. And I think on a fortnightly or on a monthly basis, I also try and set aside time with myself to really look at the big picture. How are we moving against the goals and against the projects, and what is it that needs to be planned, like a forward planning for the next quarter or for the H2 of the year. And really also planning for those meetings for the long-term initiatives. So what are those big goals that you want to drive, and how do you ensure that you are time to time sitting on them so that they do not get defocused? So that's how the day goes. I say meetings, but some with the team, some with stakeholders, and some with myself. I think most important is really being able to also spend some time with myself to really reflect Otherwise, it's like going on a train and really not being able to sit and see what you are doing.
Right, right. And I think that's very interesting because at the end of the day, as leaders, we definitely need to reflect as to what direction we are going. So it is constantly zoom in and zoom out.
Absolutely. And the reflection is not just for the work, it's about how we are working with our teams, what are the areas our teams need attention to, not just from a sort of work standpoint, but more from a development plan standpoint. What are the things we can help them with? So those kind of things are also important, not just work, but also people.
Yes, yes. Pooja, tell me one thing. How do you think marketing in this particular industry, since you have worked with different brands and different sectors earlier, how do you think marketing in this particular sector, which is healthcare and wellness and OTC, different from other sectors where you have worked in? Or it could be not just from your experience, it could be a general thought as well.
Sure. So it's been 2.5 years I've been with Hansaplast, and that's my experience in healthcare. But I'm seeing a couple of very stark differences when it comes to, say, healthcare versus, say, FMCG, because that's where I've spent a lot of time in. So one is really, if you look at healthcare within India, unlike most other countries, which is all about allopathic system of medicine and the way the belief systems are structured, healthcare in India is very different because there's a very strong belief in traditional medicine. So for anything you do, for example, you could take a cough syrup, but you could drink a kada. You could apply a medicated cream, but you could apply haldi on your skin. So there are, for everything that you have as an allopathic solution, you have your own solution. So how at a consumer level, you are really able to look at that belief system and address that belief system and get the category penetration going in. So I think that's a really big challenge or a very big difference that I see. One is from FMCG to healthcare, and one is from healthcare in India versus healthcare in other countries. The second thing I would say is that what happens in healthcare categories are, because you are expecting a better quality in life or an improvement. So it's very important that you have a very strong functional benefit and very strong reason to believe. So what is your point of difference and how we are able to really back it is important. And as a country, we come with also certain restrictions. For example, you cannot have a doctor recommendation, and you cannot have those kind of endorsements. So really, who is the recommender? So if you're saying this is a point of difference, it's not very easy for the consumer to trust the brand only because the brand is saying that, hey, I will give you this benefit and these are the reasons because I have A, B, C in my product. But really how you can up the recommendation is your chemist the influencer, is your physiotherapist the influencer, or is word of mouth your influencer? Who is the influencer and how you are really able to drive that in such a big country in this category, I think are two very important levers, because these are problem solution or those kind of categories, not very impulse, not staple, not something that you just buy over the counter and just try. You really need to know, will this work for me? Is it good enough? So who's the influencer here? Who's the recommender? I think these are two very strong category nuances and something that's yet to evolve in a more stronger way for all brands included.
But other than that, so these are the different factors which are going to define how marketing is being done in this industry versus, so let's say, FMCG.
Yes, and these are the challenges that you are really trying to address in your marketing mix as well.
Right.
So how do you do that? Who do you make your recommender in your marketing mix? Do you want to focus on the channel? Do you want to focus on events? Do you want to build strong word of mouth with certain communities? So that's the kind of questions we are figuring out in terms of the marketing mix as well.
Great. So with this, I would also like to ask you, since you deliberated on some of the key challenges, what, according to you, so these are the two main things which you pointed out. Are there any other challenges which you would like to highlight?
In terms of
marketing in your sector,
yeah.
What are the challenges which you face in marketing in your sector? So you pointed to.
Yeah. So I'll just double click and give you a very simple example in terms of exactly what I'm saying. For example, if I will ask you a question about my category. For example, it is about plasters you apply on your wound. So what happens is, I would like to ask you, as a consumer, if a kid, if your kid is hurt, what is the typical regime that you will follow?
So I think I'll clean the wound. If it's bleeding, I'll clean the wound with Dettol.
Yes.
And then obviously I'll apply, if it's a big wound, I'll apply soframycin.
Yeah.
If it's not, then if it's a small wound, so let's say it's a shoe bite, then probably I'll go with Band-Aid. So Hansaplast, I'll go with that.
Okay. So that's good to hear. So you are a category user. There are a lot of people who also keep the wound just open, because there's a very strong belief in open wound healing.
Yes.
So they feel ki choti, they say that if you do consumer interactions, they say small wounds are best left open, or they will apply haldi, turmeric. Now, how do you really tackle this belief system in your marketing mix? How are you able to actually make them believe that covering a wound is actually better than keeping it open? So I think this is going to take a generational shift for people to start believing in, because it's more about convenience as well. Versus currently people believe that haldi is good, it's in my kitchen, let me just apply it, it's best left open. So this is exactly like what I'm trying to say, are how when you want to drive plaster penetration versus consumer believes that open wound healing is better. So how we are really able to do that and really fight that.
Balancing. So Pooja, that's a intriguing thought. I would want to take a pause on this, and we will address this question in the next part of the conversation. Because I would want to leave the audience with that thought as to how you, as a marketing director, are addressing this, because it's a challenge to change consumer belief. That's the biggest challenge which we have as marketers, right?
Absolutely.
So I will want you to hold on to that thought, and we will address that in the next part of the conversation. Thank you so much for taking time out, and we will continue with the discussion.